Well, it's been an eventful start to the Premier League season for Arsenal Football Club. We've got 3 points, weren't necessarily happy with the performance. Trossard has signed a new deal. Unfortunately, today it has now emerged that Kai Havertz, in case you haven't seen, is set for a spell on the sidelines with a knee injury. Assessments are at an early stage, so the prognosis and duration of any layoff is unclear. However, Arsenal are actively exploring the transfer market to reinforce their attack. Should have been doing that anyways, regardless of Kai Havertz. Obviously, it makes it more of a pressing need, regardless of needing to sell and whatnot. He suffered this injury against Man United, and I guess every minute, every day, every hour, X-rays, all of that are gonna throw something. We need to throw something new. We need him available for our season, and I'm sure he's got his eyes on achieving something at Arsenal. And then obviously, 2026 is a World Cup year, so we're gonna have to get on with it. But things have got real very quickly for us, people. Even to the point, apparently, Zubamendi fought illness to play for us against United. I've discussed this at length. Leandro Trossard has agreed a new contract at Arsenal, which will grant him a significant pay rise. He's been linked with moves away. Personally, I feel both parties in Leandro Trossard and Arsenal have been open to everything. Arsenal obviously want to keep him because obviously we're in this kind of realm of we need to sell to buy and all of this kind of stuff. And there's other players, but Trossard is linked with a move away, regardless of who is incoming, right? We've known that Trossard has had a contract offer on the table. Whether Arsenal have revised that and given him more money, whether he's assessed his options and he wants to stay, because essentially it's the same contract with more money, in which surely, people, if we are trying to look after our finances, why give someone more money? Not saying he doesn't deserve it, because that's probably what it's about. But that's what I mean. So he's been open to it to stay in. Arsenal clearly want him to stay, really and truly, because he's now signed his new deal. And when you look at it, you also, for all the reports of Martinelli leaving, Ornstein and all these guys have said, because of Martinelli's season last year and his wages, we didn't think we'd move him on. I've just mentioned why I think Trossard would stay. I only say those two things to say this: their exits in particular, not others, but their exits, that can't have affected any pursuit of any left winger. I mean, you got Madueke, etc. We've got something to say on not Madueke, but Eze. So stay with me. Let me know your thoughts. Maybe I'm wrong, people. Jump in the comments and smash the like button. Tired of hearing about FFP, PSR, and all the other acronyms. But David Ornstein said their headroom is significant on Premier League PSR rules for Arsenal, but UEFA FFP rules are calculated differently, and Arsenal are quite tight on that. I mean, we ain't heard that for a while. There was this reaction. We knew it. There was this reaction. We knew it. There was no money to spend. Arsenal are hiding behind the rules. But no, it's just a fact. It doesn't mean Arsenal aren't able to do something. They would just need a bit of outward movement. So again, it's what we know beyond everything. We need to get players gone, people. When I was on NBC at the weekend, I said the headroom is significant on Premier League PSR rules for Arsenal, but the UEFA FFP rules are calculated differently, and Arsenal are quite tight on that. So again, make your thoughts. Regardless of who comes in, if nothing stays, Mikel Arteta and the boys have to get over the line. I think Arsenal are really happy with what they've got at their disposal on the whole. They're calm, really determined to go that one step further this season and try and turn their potential and quality into silverware. Amen. On Rafael, I do not know of Arsenal being on Rafael's case whatsoever. There was some interest from Bayern Munich in Martinelli. He was one of many names. However, they took Luis Diaz, and so Martinelli stays at the club. I have reported the regards in which Mikel Arteta holds Anthony Gordon, but that doesn't look like one that was ever likely to develop despite clear admiration. So it's irrelevant. Now, you had 50 million to spend on Madueke, and you thought that was good value or just over. What's going on with Eze? David Ornstein said, Arsenal love Eze, and if the price had been in the 40 million range, maybe you could push it a bit higher. Then perhaps it would be a different conversation. If his move to Spurs touches 60 million, that is not a place where Arsenal are comfortable with. I mean, you could never have thought you're getting someone of Eze's quality with 2 years left on his deal with other teams interested for 40 million. Let me know your thoughts on that, people. Maybe if we got some outgoings, there could be things. Now, it does seem like he's going to Spurs, people. They're considering offering Richarlison as a potential make-weight, people. And Visa is being linked with Newcastle and obviously Spurs. And it seems like that is a drama unfolding at Brentford. Now, again, don't really care about Eze going to Spurs for obvious reasons, people, bit of jealousy. But crucially here, it said Arsenal are also said to retain interest in Eze. That doesn't mean we're going to move it. I can't imagine, regardless of where he goes. If we think he's a good player, we think he's a good player. No. So let me know your thoughts. Matt Laura said sources believe Jamie Vardy has been waiting to see whether a big Premier League club could make a move for him before settling on his future. Although there's no suggestion currently that Arsenal will make a move for him. So why are we being linked? Would you not have Vardy for what it's worth? Why are we? What is even this then? Oh, it is what it is. Indy Kaya, he was endorsed by David Ornstein. I'm not saying I believe any of this Rodrigo stuff, but for what it's worth, apparently his agent is traveling to London. The agent will land in the evening. The agent will meet Arsenal and Liverpool to see what options can be offered to his client. So that's not Real Madrid and Arsenal or Liverpool talking. That is clients. So slow your horses, mate. Unless Rodrigo's finally accepting, because he was on the bench against Osasuna, that you need to move on. The agent has requested the meeting, not the clubs. So that tells you everything there. There will be a number of players Arsenal would have looked at, but in terms of credible options, there is nobody, unless it's being done in secret, that's being actively pursued or there's advanced discussions. That's not to say dominoes can't fall and possibilities emerge that aren't necessarily there now. I've got to disappoint you on names like Rodrigo and Leao, but that doesn't mean to say that if some interest comes in one of their players, they don't take decisive action. So be braced for nobody to sign people. Will we make signings or not? So yeah, once again, I do not think Arsenal looked at Rodrigo. Sorry, I do think Arsenal looked at Rodrigo and had conversations about him internally, but that was quite a long time ago. Remember, we was told Madueke and Eze deals were separate, and I don't think they went any further. Certainly not to my knowledge. It's not one I know Arsenal to be working on. I think there may have been some intermediaries who were aiming to bring Arsenal into the equation. I don't think Arsenal made a huge play for Rodrigo, and I don't expect him to come into the club. So further daggers being given to the chest with Rodrigo. Guillaume Balaguer said Real Madrid insist Arsenal have not made an approach for Rodrigo yet. Keyword yet. And there have been no offers for the winger. Real Madrid would accept less for him as the window draws to a close, but as things stand, nobody expects him to leave, people. Apparently, Arsenal and Manchester City officials contacted Rodrigo over the weekend. The Gunners are ready to pursue a loan deal for the Real Madrid winger, but they need some departures first. So departures first. Hopefully, by the time this video comes out, players have left, people, but it is what it is. There was this nagging feeling at the club about the left-hand side. It's no disrespect to Martinelli or Trossard, but I think the powers that be at the club feel if the opportunity was right, an upgrade can be sought from the market. That's what I think they have looked at. Guys like Rodrigo, Anthony Gordon, but that doesn't look like one that was ever likely to develop. Then others like Eze, but that was never for the left side. It was always for the 8 or 10 position. Okay, so we didn't want it. Do you lot believe this is going to happen, people? Arsenal are weighing up a swoop for Morgan Rogers. Aston Villa value Rogers at 80 million and are unlikely to entertain offers below that. Can play as an 8, can play for 10, can play off the left, English, quality. All the reasons I've said previously as to why I think we're not going to get Eze, I think the case is said with Morgan Rogers. It's going to cost an arm and a leg. But whether it's Rogers, whether it's Rodrigo, whether it's Eze, whether it's Leao, whether it's this one, that one, if you want these guys, you have to pay up the cash. And if you don't, then you're telling me you got enough, which is okay. I ain't been in the game like Berto. I've never owned a football club like the Cronkies. I've never been in the positions that the board members have, excluding Berto. I've never got paid 15 million a year or a pro licensed manager managing in the Premier League. I'm just an armchair expert that loves my football club. So while it's disappointing, you lot are telling me we have enough. Please make sure, not just myself, but Arsenal fans all over the world and in England are forwarding to Islington in May of 2026, celebrating something. That's it. Jacob Kiwior remains the subject of strong interest from Porto, and club discussions with Arsenal are continuing. Arsenal would favour a permanent deal, but Porto are prioritising an initial loan deal that would become a permanent next summer. Arsenal have rejected approaches from both PSG and Real Madrid for Saliba. They insist the defender is not for sale at any price. We've also heard Bert's trying to tie him down to a new deal. Get this Vardy stuff out my face. Ademodo's Lookman's entourage has been talking to teams after his transfer to Inter fell through. Arsenal, Chelsea, Tottenham, Manchester City, and Aston Villa have all been contacted in the last 48 hours. So the clubs haven't contacted Ademola Lookman's people based on that. Ademola Lookman's people has tested the waters, especially if the Inter Milan thing is not going to work. Stuttgart talks with Arsenal for Fabio Vieira are centered on a loan deal with an obligation if certain performance-led targets are met. A figure in the region of 17 million has been discussed. Apparently, Julian Alvarez, people, his entourage believes he made a mistake joining Atletico Madrid. Didn't Berta sign him for Atletico Madrid? He's a player I know a lot of us would have liked the look of at our football club. I can't say I believe it, but there you have it. And again, just to home back in on on the stuff regarding Morgan Rogers. Again, people, he's known, it says here he's a forward to challenge Martinelli. Aston Villa apparently are playing a dangerous game where FFP is concerned. The Midlanders have no need to shift more players in order to meet Premier League and UEFA financial rules after selling Jacob Ramsey to Newcastle for 40 million and loaning Leon Bailey to Roma. So they're not under any issues. They value Rodgers at 80 million and are unlikely to entertain offers below that price. Apparently, Rodgers was wanted by Chelsea. I can't imagine we're going to go and spend 80 million on Rodgers, especially as they don't see him as a fit for the flank. And we've got players that are going to play out wide, play in the middle. So it is what it is. But once again, Villa are no longer under any pressure to sell if they want to strengthen Emirates' squad. So does anyone think we're going to get Sancho, Nicholas Jackson, all of them kind of guys?
You always just have to when like